Khyrunnisa A here at the venue of the Kerala Literature Festival, and it's a very huge honor for me to have interview her. So yeah, so my first question or something that I've always been inquisitive about Khyrunnisa or something about children's book is how do you get into writing a children's book? Because you have so many ideas coming in, and as an editor of Mango Books, like a children's editor also, like we get a whole lot of manuscripts every day. So but then it's quite difficult when it comes to picking up which is the right kind of a book that clicks for the audience. But then to not just write as a children's editor, but also as a children's writer, but also a general writer. She has books published for adults also. So where do you find that border, or where do you find that line about writing children's and the adult books also?
Good morning. I think it's still morning. Thank you very much, Hitha, for your question, and I would like to thank DC Books for having invited me to this festival. About writing for children, how do you write for children? Well, if you had asked me this question before I had started writing for children, I would have said, I don't know how to write for children, because my journey as a children's writer was purely accidental. So it wasn't as if I always wanted to become a writer. It was never my ambition to become a writer. I was teaching in a college, All Saints College, Department of English. Loved teaching. English is my passion. And language, I love the English language. And but I like to write, but as I always draw a distinction between liking to write and wanting to become a writer. So and once it so happened that when my son was small, we used to get this magazine called Tinkle. I think you all must be aware of this magazine, Tinkle. And they were running a competition for adult writers of children's fiction. So just like that, I thought I will send an entry. This is how sometimes things happen. So I sent an entry, and that story was Butterfingers. So if you look at it, Butterfingers also has a journey as long as my writing journey. His literary journey also started then. And with my first step into writing, and I wrote the story, and I got a prize, second prize, which made me happy because it was an all-India competition. But when people ask me, this is a question I'm constantly asked, what you asked, and also which they ask me, what is the turning point in your writing career? It's very difficult, such a question, because you can't really pinpoint a turning point. But for me, I have a turning point.
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'd really like to hear about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
This turning point was the visit to my house of the assistant editor of Tinkle. After the story came out and got this prize, the assistant editor of Tinkle came to my house. Two strangers came to my house, and she said she's Prabha Nair, and she introduced her husband, who's Commodore Nair. She dragged him actually, but don't think she came all the way from Bombay, Mumbai to Trivandrum to meet me. No. She came because her in-laws were there, but in Tinkle they liked my story so much that they told her, if you have time, go and meet her. You're going to Trivandrum, find out if she's as lively as her story. But they didn't give me the first prize, all right. And so she told me that she's, this is how she is. We got talking. She asked me if I'm going to send an entry for the next year's competition. And I said no, which made her quite surprised. She said, why not? I said, I've already got a prize. She said, your ambitions are really low. You should enter, because we don't go by whether somebody's got a prize, etc., etc. So that is the turning point, all right? So I sent an entry, and that got the first prize, and that set me on track. But you asked me, how do you write for children? So I can just tell you how I wrote the first Butterfingers story, because I'm entering a competition, right? I told you I entered just like that. Nobody enters any competition just like that.
Yes.
Because
Yeah, there are a lot of writers, aspiring writers, who continue to write to us every day. Like, how do we write? We have the idea, but then most of the time when people come and pitch an idea to us also, like the idea might sound fantastic, but then when it comes to really writing it down, does it convey it to it too much, or like does it applies rightly? Or also when you're writing children's literature also, you have to be very sensitive.
Yes.
And, extra sensitive, that's a word that I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, because,
You have to know your boundaries. You
Yes,
can't go beyond something, whether it comes to plot or words.
So how do you, where do you draw that line?
I draw the line. See, one of the things that you could say made me a writer is that I was always a reader. See, you have to be a reader and read widely. I started reading when I was very young. So I went through all those children's books, then all the classics that come abridged for children, the ones for grown-ups, but which you read as children. And then you keep on reading. So when you keep reading, unconsciously, it all stays there. We are not aware of it, but it all stays there, and it helps you hone your skills in writing. You know what can work, what cannot work. You know what you can do, what you cannot do. So when it came to my writing my story, I didn't find it particularly difficult, because I brought in 2-3 things which were very important for me. Humor, which I love humor. I've always enjoyed humor. And humor is, I don't know whether you can call it my weakness or my strength, but that is how it is. And also sports. The first story I wrote is a sports-based story, cricket-based story. And I was, because I love sports, love cricket, read the newspaper back to front. So I thought I will write a sports-based story, and I will have a character whose nickname is Butterfingers, because if it is going to be a sports-based story, a Butterfingers or a clumsy person, there'll be a lot of chances for him to do something clumsy and generate humor. That was my intention. So that was how all this happened. And I made this boy 13 years old, because I did not want to go to the young adult thing, which becomes a little tricky. I don't think I'm equipped to write for the really small children. So I was projected myself, or I thought of myself as a person who was writing that middle grade, for the middle grader. And that's how I wrote, always conscious of, I kept thinking of myself as a reader when I was writing. Will I like it? That way.
And so in your stories, most of the time, towards the end, the epiphany, or the kind of the stories that you write, the epiphany mostly is about reading, the importance of reading.
Of reading.
Yeah, like most of the times there are, like even when we speak about it, you always give us the importance of reading and all that.
Yes.
So now my next question is about, the book. And about superstitions, which is blasted in the book, of course. So could you tell me what went into writing that book, especially the theme, and that we were talking previously also that about the myths and all the superstitions that the community holds, and there are certain kind of false superstitions, or like a false impressions that this is the truth, or like all of those, and how she tries to blast them in the book. So, yeah.
You're talking about Smash It Butterfingers, right?
Butterfingers.
Smash It Butterfingers is the 7th book in the Butterfingers series. It is the 4th novel. There are 3 collections of short stories. Yes, Smash It Butterfingers was something I wanted to write. I wrote 2 cricket novels. 3 actually. One is a novella in a Butterfingers collection of stories. Then I also wrote a football-based story. I wrote a karate-based story.
Yeah.
Which is very strange, because I don't know karate.
And it's not very, cricket stories may be popular with us, but the karate story, it's quite unpopular also.
Yeah, karate was more because a friend said, I won't read your books until you write. He loves karate. If you write a story about karate, I will read it. So I took up that challenge. Very stupid of me, but I did that.
But then how do you write that spontaneously?
I really had to learn everything about karate. I watched endless movies about karate, and I became very familiar with it. I read all the rules. for writing one small 64-page novella, I did a whole lot of research just because a friend said, I took up the challenge. It was, now I'm happy because after he read it, and he read only that story, he said that he did not find any flaw in it, in what I have written. Anyway, coming to Smash It Butterfingers, that book is about superstitions because, in fact, what you asked me, I went against the grind actually because these days and for a long time, ever since Harry Potter became popular, and I just give Rowling a lot of credit for the magic of Harry Potter, because for me it's not the magic of Harry Potter, but it is the magic of getting children back to reading. As you said, it's very important. And she brought children back to reading through her books, for which I am very, very grateful to her. And somehow that became, the passion for every child. They wanted to read only about fantasy, magic, and if you ask them to write, it will also be fantasy, magic, the marvelous, the fantastic, the
superheroes.
things that, superheroes. So, but for me, it was just the opposite. For me, it was always about realism. Because the books that I liked when I was growing up, Jennings, William, they were all ordinary children who were doing a lot of, who were full of life and who were solving life's mysteries in the way, without resorting to magic.
Yeah.
Which is a little difficult. Magic can help you get out of tricky situations. But if you really look for ways out, it's very difficult. So I thought I should write a story. It was not conscious actually, but I was always thinking we should have a story where children are made to understand that superstitions are to be ignored. One should not be superstitious, and every superstition has a story behind it. If you have the superstition that you walk under a ladder, it's bad luck. It started because somebody at the top would be holding a box of paint. It could fall on your head. So people don't go under the ladder. Then it became a superstition. Similarly with spilling salt. Salt was very expensive. So that became bad luck. Friday the 13th became a bad luck time. So that was also because mathematicians consider 12 a perfect number. So poor 13 coming after 12 is a little imperfect. Yeah. So, and on top of that, we have myths to back this. Judas was the 13th guest at the Last Supper. The god Loki was the 13th guest at Valhalla, in the Nordish myth. So you have 13 coming, and Friday became even worse because Jesus Christ was crucified on Friday, the 13th. So that is the myth. I want children to understand that it is, you should get these myths out of your head. You know the myths. It's nice to know myths. But don't be influenced by them to such an extent that your life is all about living it according to superstition. Yes. So that is why I wrote that story. But I did not bring any Indian superstition in because I want to live. It's all Western superstitions.
Yeah, so we have less than 8 minutes. So I'd like to open for conversation. Sure. Please, for the questions.
Hi, ma'am.
Hello.
Let me just first say that I really enjoyed your conversation. I couldn't be from the beginning, but I really enjoyed whatever you were speaking to the audience.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to ask about magical realism. It's a topic that I find very interesting. I love reading and also watching shows where this magical realism is incorporated into that, fiction or non-fiction or whatever. So what are your views on, this magical realism as a topic? That's my question.
I think that's fine because Marquez made it very popular, right, with magic realism. It is just, you are using, you're making it realistic and marvelous. So that is what you're doing, and you find that in his books. I think it is fine. See, my contention is not that one should not write magic realism. It's very nice, and when beautifully executed, like people like Marquez, Salman Rushdie. You know how they write. So when it is done well, it's fine. If you look at Harry Potter, you can't call it magic realism. It is just fantasy. It's magic. There's a difference between the two. So I wouldn't say that one should not write. My aim is not that, but one writes to one's strengths. You write what you think you are good at. Maybe if you throw me a challenge like the karate guy did and tell me, you write a book on magic realism, I might scratch my head and I might, just about might, write it, but my heart wouldn't be there. Okay, I would want to write something that suits my way of thinking and the way I look at the world and the kind of stories I think I can best write, which will make children happy. But the main reason why I write humor is one thing I think I'm quite okay with writing humor, and children are very happy when they read the books. And they constantly what they ask me is, how did you know this is how we think? We can relate to your books. This is exactly how we are. Because my hero is not first in class, not second in class, not fourth in class, somewhere in the bottom. But he is intelligent. He wants to help. Doesn't always work. But, so these are the things that you find in real life. And that is what I'm taking head on. And I also want to bring sports into children's lives. So that is also another something that I'm conscious about. They're not playing enough. And even the superstition thing, if you read the book, you will realize I have added to that the importance of reading. Because if you keep reading and broaden your mind, then you will not be superstitious. Only reading can broaden your mind. So the prize for the story is about this man, Brijesh Singh, K. Singh, who wants to blast superstitions. He doesn't like superstitions. So he says he wants to hold a badminton match on Friday the 13th between 13-year-olds. All right? And that will be 13th school. So, and the prize is huge. Both the winner and the loser get the prize. So that you don't think that this is how, that it is bad luck to lose. And the prize has to be used to buy books for the library. So, these are the little ways in which I try to make people understand, children understand that you have to read widely, don't get stuck in one genre. And that is what will make you, I don't think there's a word, unsuperstitious, that will take you out of superstition.
So it's kind of unlearning at a very young age. Like we grow up learning a lot of things, we unlearn at a certain age, but then, with the kind of medium that we have around today and the books that has been written, there's the whole variety of, the fiction and the non-fiction in the children's arena itself. I think it's a lot of unlearning to happen on superstitions in any other areas. So do we have time for last question? Do you have anybody else for a question? Any questions on writing children's novels or anything? Or any aspiring writer?
You can ask about the
Okay, so then I'll throw her my last question, and it's about her recent book. It's Chuckle Merry Spin, and it's not a children's novel. So yeah, then this again brings me back to my first question about drawing the line of children's fiction and adult fiction. So she'll talk a bit about her recent book, Chuckle Merry Spin, as well, as a closing question.
Yeah. Okay. So I have, in fact, when I was writing children's fiction, there are lots of people who used to ask me, so when are you going to write for adults? As if it's a learning experience, you have to, this is step one. There is this kind of a slightly condescending attitude towards children's writing, you know that. So I said, no, it's different altogether. You need different kinds of skills for both. But it so happened that I was asked by Hindu to write a column for the magazine section, MetroPlus, and it was a humor column which became hugely popular. So the readers wanted me to compile, they used to write to me asking me to compile, and that is how this book came out, tongue-in-cheek, The Funny Side of Life, which is about the misadventures of an urban woman, and it has done very, very well. So this is my first foray, you can say, into adult fiction, but there is nothing adult in the book. In the sense, like somebody asked me, you have written a book for adults? Which are those pages? I said, what pages? There are no such pages. Anyone can read the book. Only thing is, it is about the concerns. It is to do with an older person. It is about the concerns of older people in society. But anyone can read the book. And then we went to the US in 2018. We had a lot of adventures. And I thought that would make a good book. Yes. And that is how the second one came out. That is very recently, 2 months back. Chuckle, Merry Spin, Us in the US. I hope it rings a bell. Chuckle, Merry Spin. Huckleberry Finn.
Huckleberry Finn, yes.
Yeah, because it is a humorous travelogue. Chuckle. It's very merry. We had a spin. We went around the US, 6 states in 40 days, which is not too bad. And we had a lot of adventures. So that was how Chuckle, Merry Spin happened. So even here, when you write for adults, one thing is you have unlimited opportunities. You can write about any kind of anything. Of course, there'll be censorship. There'll be people out for your life, if you say the wrong things. Now everybody is so thin-skinned. You can't say anything. It's become like that. But when you're writing, you can. So that is what happens. And also with words, you can use any kind of words. You can write about any kind of character. There is great freedom when you write for adults. Whereas when you write for children, there's always this restriction. In your mind, you're writing for a child. You can't do this, you can't include that, you can't do this, and so on. So that is how I write. And I am my severest critic. I always take myself out of myself and see whether I would like what I have written.
Okay,
thank you very much.
I think our time's up. So the last word that you would like to give it out to all the aspiring children's writers and writers in generally. A last one sentence or two words.
Okay, I'll go back to my old theme. Please keep reading. Only then you will become good writers. Writing is built on the foundation of reading. So unless you read a lot, you cannot become a good writer, because reading hones all your skills, linguistic skills, social skills, every kind of skill, life skills, everything. So that is what I would like you to do. And those of you who want to write, keep writing. It's hard work. Don't think it's easy.
It's very hard work.
Very, very hard work. See, there's an editor who is busy rejecting manuscripts, all right. So, you know how hard it is.
It's very hard to even reject manuscripts also.
I know, it's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah. But anyway, that is, you can't help it. So that's how it happens. So all of you who want to write, keep writing, but also keep reading. And all of you who don't want to write, fine, keep reading. Because that's what you need to build a better society and to enjoy yourself. Please read to enjoy yourself, for pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Khyrunnisa. This was a wonderful session. Please, everybody, give it up for Khyrunnisa. Thank you so much, ma'am. All her books are available at our bookstores. You can get it signed from her as well at the author signing sessions. Thank you so much for all the wonderful listeners out there. Keep enjoying Kerala Literature Festival. Thank you.